Trump just dropped a bombshell. He wants to hand out $2,000 checks to every American. Yes, even seniors on Social Security and disability. But here's the kicker. He's not planning to borrow a dime to do it. Instead, he's eyeing the billions already flowing in from tariff revenue.
Backhand index pointing right. If this information helped you, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're always one step ahead. We break down important updates like this clearly so you're never caught off guard. Join our community, stay informed, and take control of your financial future, starting today. Flexed Biceps Calendar.
Over $214 billion collected in 2025 alone. And Trump says that's just the beginning. Senator Josh Hawley's already laid the groundwork with a $600 tariff rebate bill in the Senate, but Trump is blowing past that. He's shooting for $2,000. And he's not waiting for some distant economic recovery plan. He wants this locked in before the end of the year. The MAGA machine is now tying trade policy directly to your wallet, with Trump promising to not just cover the checks, but also pay down the $37 trillion national debt. But there's a problem, and it's massive. Healthcare costs are spiraling, and inflation hasn't let up. Medicare Part B premiums are set to surge 11.6% next year, while Social Security checks will barely budge. Seniors, especially those already drowning under rising costs, are being crushed. And this stimulus could be their only shot at relief. This isn't some abstract economic theory. These are kitchen table consequences. Trump's plan might be populist fuel, but it's also a political grenade. And everyone from policy experts to inflation hawks are watching to see if it detonates. Donald Trump wants to send Americans $2,000 stimulus checks. That's right. The same man who spent years railing against free handouts now wants to be the Santa Claus of 2025, dropping $1,000 to $2,000 into your bank account before the end of the year. But this isn't just a rerun of pandemic-era relief checks. No, this time Trump says he's going to fund it all through tariffs. Massive import taxes that have already raked in over $214 billion this year alone. He claims they could generate over $1 trillion annually. And he's determined to use that money not just for stimulus payments, but also to start paying off the $37 trillion national debt. It's a bold move, and it's lighting up headlines for a reason. This isn't just about political theater. Trump's team is actively pushing legislation to get these checks out the door. The idea: direct payments to every American citizen, including seniors on Social Security, and those receiving disability benefits. And he's not alone in this push. Senator Josh Hawley has already introduced legislation calling for a $600 rebate check, also funded by tariff revenue. The bill is drafted and sitting in the Senate. It just hasn't cleared the House. Trump wants to go bigger and faster. But here's where it gets more complicated. Not everyone's on board. While the idea of $2,000 in your pocket sounds great, critics are warning that this could pour gasoline on the inflation fire that's already burning. Healthcare costs are soaring. Basic goods are more expensive. Seniors especially are getting hit the hardest. And the last thing they need is a wave of inflation making everything worse. But Trump doesn't seem too concerned. He's banking on tariffs, the same strategy he used during his first term, to fund this new round of stimulus. In his view, it's a win-win. Tax foreign imports, boost American manufacturing, and use the revenue to take care of Americans directly. According to Trump, this approach could not only provide immediate financial relief, but also chip away at the $37 trillion debt that's hanging over the country like a storm cloud. Supporters of this plan argue it's a smart way to redirect trade policy. Instead of letting tariff money sit in federal coffers or vanish into bloated bureaucracies, they want to send it back to the people. And with Americans grappling with rising healthcare bills, housing costs, and economic uncertainty, those checks could be a lifeline, especially for seniors. Right now, Medicare costs are on track to skyrocket. In 2026, Medicare Part B premiums are projected to jump by more than 11.6%. Deductibles will climb by over 12%. Meanwhile, Social Security benefits are expected to go up by only 2.7%. That means seniors will be losing ground. Rest. And that's not even considering inflation on everything else. Food, gas, electricity, you name it. So while the federal government talks about stable inflation rates, seniors know better. They're living it. And the numbers don't lie. $2,000 stimulus check might not fix everything, but it could give seniors some breathing room. It could help them cover their prescriptions, manage rising utility bills, or just put a little food in the fridge. And that's why this conversation matters. 'Cause it's not just about stimulus checks. It's about whether our leaders are willing to step up and help the most vulnerable, before it's too late. The stakes are especially high for those navigating the increasingly messy world of Medicare. Insurers are pulling out of key markets. Plans are changing. And premiums are jumping. Choosing the right Medicare plan isn't just important. It's urgent. Pick the wrong one and you could be out hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year. That's why seniors are being encouraged to stay informed and proactive. There are resources available. Organizations like Chapter Medicare are stepping in to help seniors sort through the chaos and find the right coverage. They're offering one-on-one assistance, customized guidance, and support during a time when healthcare feels anything but stable. But even with help, the system is confusing. Seniors are facing decision overload. Premiums, deductibles, networks, drug coverage, copays. And they're doing it while living on fixed incomes and watching prices climb across the board. So yes, a $2,000 check might seem like a temporary fix. But for millions of seniors, it's a direct response to a daily crisis. It means catching up on bills, paying for dental work, covering new glasses, or simply not having to choose between food and medicine. Of course, not everyone sees it that way. Critics warn that more stimulus spending, even if it's funded through tariffs, could drive inflation even higher. They argue that injecting more cash into the economy when prices are already climbing could send costs spiraling out of control. And they say that using tariffs to raise money amounts to a hidden tax on consumers, since importers typically pass those costs along. But for Trump and his allies, the message is simple. Americans need help now. Tariffs are already bringing in billions. Let's use that money to support the people who need it most. And there's a growing movement behind that message. Seniors aren't just waiting for Washington to act. They're getting organized. They're leaning into community-driven platforms that offer real-time updates, guidance, and support. These aren't just Facebook groups or forums. They're spaces built specifically for seniors. They provide educational resources, live Q&A sessions, and direct access to experts who can help with Medicare, Social Security, retirement planning, and more. The goal is clear: to empower seniors. To make sure they're not navigating this mess alone. Because the reality is, federal programs are changing. Healthcare costs are rising. And the people who've spent their lives building this country deserve better than confusion, anxiety, and silence from their government. So what happens next? That depends on Congress. Senator Hawley's $600 tariff rebate bill is ready. Trump wants to double or triple that amount. The push is on to pass legislation before the end of 2025. But with Washington as divided as ever, nothing is guaranteed. Some lawmakers are already sounding the alarm about fiscal responsibility. Others are warning about inflation. And still others are waiting to see which way the political winds blow. But here's the bottom line. Americans are hurting. Seniors are being crushed by costs. And they need help. If Trump's plan moves forward, it could represent a dramatic shift in how economic relief is handled, tying stimulus payments to tariff revenue, and turning trade policy into a tool for domestic support. It's bold, it's risky, and it's likely to be controversial. But it's also one of the few proposals on the table that offers immediate relief in a year marked by soaring prices and economic stress. So whether you love Trump or loathe him, the question is the same. Will Washington act? Will Congress pass this stimulus plan? And will the people who need help the most finally get it? Because for seniors trying to survive 2025's economic crunch, every dollar counts. And a $2,000 check could be the difference between just getting by or falling behind for good. If you're a senior or someone helping a loved one navigate this chaos, don't wait. Get educated. Know your Medicare options. Understand how these proposed changes could affect your finances. Join a trusted community platform that's built for you, offering tools, guides, and live support to help you take control of your benefits. This isn't just about waiting for Washington to act. It's about getting ahead of the crisis and staying informed, empowered, and protected every step of the way. Take control of your benefits today. Learn how to protect yourself from rising costs, choose the right Medicare coverage, and get the most out of what you've earned. Join our community now and get the tools you need to thrive, not just survive, in retirement. So here we are, October 2025, and the economy is squeezing people dry. Rents are up. Groceries through the roof. Gas, utilities, prescription drugs, everything costs more. And while Washington plays politics, seniors are left holding the bag. They've done everything right. Worked their whole lives. Paid their taxes. Played by the rules. And now, they're watching their Social Security increases get swallowed by skyrocketing Medicare premiums. That's the reality. And that's exactly why Trump's $2,000 stimulus proposal has landed like a bombshell. 'Cause it cuts through the noise. This isn't a convoluted tax credit or a complicated benefits program with pages of fine print. It's not another government portal that's impossible to navigate. It's cash. Direct. Tangible. Immediate. And for millions of Americans, it could be the difference between paying off a medical bill or going into deeper debt. Trump is framing this move as economic patriotism. He says if we're already taxing imports, if we're already generating hundreds of billions in tariff revenue, why let that money sit in some dusty budget line when it can go back into the pockets of American citizens? And let's be clear, the tariffs are already happening. Importers are paying them. Consumers are feeling them. So the money is there. The question is what we do with it. And here's the twist. Trump's opponents are suddenly caught flat-footed. Because for years they painted him as the king of the rich, the puppet of Wall Street. Now he's outflanking them by pitching what amounts to a massive wealth transfer, paid for by foreign companies no less. And if you're one of the 50 million seniors on Medicare, you're not thinking about political strategy. You're thinking about the 11.6% jump in Part B premiums. You're thinking about how your deductibles are going up more than 12%. And you're wondering how your Social Security check, going up only 2.7%, is supposed to cover all of that. This is what's being ignored in mainstream conversations. The math doesn't work anymore. Seniors are told every year to shop around for new Medicare plans. As if that's easy. Plans change. Insurers drop coverage. Formularies update. Doctors move out of network. And somehow, in the middle of all this, seniors are expected to become expert negotiators, financial analysts, and insurance brokers just to stay afloat. That's the cruel joke of the system. And that's why community-driven platforms are stepping up, because people are sick of waiting for bureaucrats to care. These platforms are giving seniors what they actually need. Side-by-side comparisons, real-time updates, one-on-one consultations, and support that isn't buried in red tape. They're cutting through the noise and putting power back where it belongs, in the hands of seniors. But even with all that, the squeeze is real. There's only so much you can do with a fixed income. And when housing, food, transportation, and medicine are all more expensive than last year, something has to give. For many seniors, that something is often critical care. Skipping medications, delaying surgeries, cutting back on essentials. Not because they want to, but because they have to. That's the quiet crisis behind Trump's stimulus pitch. Because whether you agree with the politics or not, the need is undeniable. Seniors are being bled dry by a system that talks about cost of living adjustments like it's solving something, when in reality, those adjustments are being completely overwhelmed by healthcare costs. The numbers are brutal. Let's break them down. The 2.7% increase in Social Security benefits might sound decent on paper. But if your Medicare Part B premium just jumped 11.6%, and your deductible rose by over 12%, then you're already in the red. And that's before you fill a single prescription or visit a doctor. In other words, seniors are starting each year in the hole. So yes, a one-time $2,000 check matters. gives people room to breathe, gives them options. And in a system where every little financial decision feels like a high-wire act, that kind of relief isn't just appreciated, it's essential. But there's still resistance in Washington. The usual suspects are worried about inflation. They're sounding alarms about too much stimulus, too fast. They're warning that checks like this could make prices worse. Let's be clear. Those concerns aren't baseless. Inflation is real. It's hurting people. But so is inaction. And if inflation is already making life unaffordable for seniors, the answer can't be to do nothing. The answer can't be to shrug and say, well, we're worried about the long-term economy. Because for a senior who's 76 years old, the long term is now. And let's not pretend like these lawmakers are living with the same pain. They're not skipping medications. They're not spending hours trying to decipher a Medicare booklet. They're not choosing between heat and food. They get automatic raises, lifetime pensions, and platinum-tier insurance plans, paid for by the very people they keep telling to tighten their belts. So when Trump proposes sending out $2,000 checks, it's not just a policy proposal. It's a mirror. It forces the political class to look at what they've let happen, to admit that in their obsession with theory, they've forgotten about people. And right now, people are hurting, especially seniors. And it's not just about money. It's about dignity. It's about acknowledging that after decades of work and contribution, seniors shouldn't be navigating a maze just to survive. They shouldn't be stressed out trying to find a doctor who still takes Medicare. They shouldn't have to call a dozen insurers just to make sure their prescriptions are still covered. They deserve better. And while no one's pretending that a $2,000 stimulus check is a magic fix, it's a start. It's a recognition that the system is failing. It's a signal that, for once, we're willing to act instead of just talk. So here's what needs to happen. If you're a senior, or someone helping a parent, grandparent, or neighbor through this mess, don't sit on the sidelines. Get informed. Understand the changes coming to Medicare. Know your options. Review your plans. And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. The resources are there. The support exists. But you've got to take that first step. Because whether this stimulus passes or not, the challenges are real. The stakes are high. And you can't afford to wait for Washington to get its act together. Stay ahead. Stay protected. And stay loud. Because the louder we are, the harder it is for them to ignore us. If this proposal dies in silence, so will the chance for relief. But if enough people stand up, if seniors, caregivers, advocates, and allies demand action, then Congress will have no choice but to listen. So let's make some noise. Let's hold them accountable. And let's remind them that behind every statistic, there's a person, life, story, a future worth fighting for. And let's get one thing straight. This isn't charity. This isn't a handout. This is payback. This is justice. For decades, America's seniors have carried this country. Through wars, recessions, pandemics, and political chaos. They've paid into the system with every paycheck, every tax return, every Medicare deduction. And what do they get in return? A monthly Social Security check that barely keeps up with rising rent, exploding utility bills, and outrageous prescription costs. Meanwhile, Washington plays chicken with your future. They talk in circles about economic indicators and fiscal stability, but they haven't lived one day on a fixed income. They haven't had to choose between insulin and groceries. They haven't had to take out a credit card to cover a dental emergency. So when Trump steps forward and says, let's give the people their money back, you bet it lands like a thunderclap. 'Cause it's about time someone said it. This government has no problem writing trillion-dollar checks for wars, bailouts, and corporate tax breaks. No problem funding every special interest under the sun. But when it comes to putting a little cash into the hands of the people who actually need it, suddenly everyone finds their inner fiscal hawk. Suddenly it's all, well, what about inflation? You didn't hear about inflation when big banks got rescued. You didn't hear it when defense contractors padded their budgets. But now that seniors are drowning in Medicare costs, suddenly it's too expensive to help. Enough. This $2,000 stimulus isn't just money. It's recognition. It's a signal that yes, the system has been rigged for too long. And no, it doesn't have to stay that way. And if the critics are worried about inflation, let them be worried. But while they argue on cable news, people are slipping through the cracks. Real families, real seniors, struggling with real problems. And they don't have time for think tank debates. Look at the reality right now. Social Security benefits are ticking up by 2.7%. But Medicare costs are rising nearly 5 times faster. That's not a gap. That's a chasm. And there's no parachute. Seniors are already making sacrifices. Already rationing medications. Already falling behind. How long do you expect them to hold on? This is why Trump's proposal has taken off like wildfire in communities that feel forgotten. Because for once, there's a plan that doesn't require a 10-point bureaucratic process, doesn't ask people to prove their poverty, doesn't bury them in paperwork. Simple, direct, human, in your hand, when you need it most. And yes, it's bold. But that's what the moment demands. And let's not forget, the money's already coming in. Tariffs brought in over $214 billion this year alone. Trump says we could see over $1 trillion annually if we go all in. That's not fantasy. That's revenue. That's leverage. And instead of letting that money get swallowed by the debt spiral or wasted on administrative nonsense, this plan would use it where it counts, on the American people. Not on foreign aid. Not on lobbyist slush funds. Not on sweetheart contracts. On you. Because the truth is, this country doesn't have a shortage of money. It has a shortage of priorities. And right now, our seniors, the backbone of this nation, are being shoved to the bottom of the list. It's sick. It's shameful. And it has to stop. So what's the next move? Senator Hawley's bill is drafted. Trump's ready to double or triple it. The House is dragging its feet. But they won't be able to stall forever. 'Cause people are watching. People are angry. And people are organizing. That's where you come in. You're not powerless. You have a voice. You have choices. You can contact your representatives. You can speak out. You can flood the phone lines. You can join a platform that's fighting for you, not against you. One that gives you real tools, real resources, and real answers in a system that too often gives you nothing but confusion. Because this is your retirement, your money, your life. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late to demand better. Join the community now. Learn how to navigate rising healthcare costs. Get expert support picking the right Medicare plan. Stay up to date on stimulus developments and policy changes. Connect with people who know what you're going through and are ready to help. You deserve to retire with dignity. You deserve financial security. And if Washington won't give it to you willingly, then we'll fight for every dollar they owe you. This is your moment. Step into it.